Hey, what's up, everyone? I am David. I'm here with the Maegical Stories of Healing and Spiritual Gifts podcast. Here with my lovely wife, Megan.
Hi, y'all.
And we are so excited today to bring you, is it Dastra? Tony Dastra or Tony Dastra?
Dastra.
Tony Dastra. We've connected for a while now. We connected from the Facebook group, the Maegical Healing Facebook group, and immediately I just felt a connection with you, and I was like, I got to get you in this group.
I think it was on another group. I forgot what it was, but you found me, and you reached out to me, and I'm like, what's this all about? Let me take a peek at this, right? And then immediately you start talking about, you mentioned something about plant medicine. I'm like, this is perfect timing because I'm going down in a month. I'm going to have a nice little story for you.
Yeah.
And then I'm telling you, you uplifted me just because, your spirit, the spirit that both of you have, it just comes out in such a positive, loving, joyful, grateful. Every way imaginable. And I think the reason why you're gaining memories, you just put people at ease, right? And it's just kind of the way you go about your everyday life. And I really enjoyed speaking to you. And I'm like, you know what? These people really do care. And that's really important, So that's kind of the way I felt. And then, you were like, hey, man, when you get back, let's kind of sync up. And here we are.
Yeah, man. No.
So I'm really excited to be here today. Really super excited to be here today.
So excited to have you. And I feel like the reason why, what was it he just said? I just lost it. Shoot.
That we put people at ease.
Yeah, because I've been through so much shit in my life. And so it makes me come from a more compassionate place, and it's like, man, I was able to come out on top, and I figured out all these amazing secrets that work in the universe. I have to share this with people. And it's if I can help someone, because dude, it took me 23 years of suffering, maybe longer, before I figured shit out, what actually works. And it's if I can save someone the time, then it's very fulfilling. And I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. And and one thing I'm excited to talk to you about, man, because there's this deep part of me that wants to get rid of this freaking stigma of psychedelics and plant medicine. There's this horrible stigma out there, and it's stopping people from finding this healing, Yeah. And I was excited because I know you were going to experience that, and you came back, and I was like, we got to chat because I've read over your notes, and wow.
Dude. When this place is ridiculous, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that, right? I know you kind of have a flow here, and I definitely want to get into the flow, but I'm super excited. And hey, man, I'm an open book. I'll try not to be too open, but because I'll tell you what, when when we get to the part about ayahuasca, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
No, there's no going back.
You can't unsee it.
There's no going back.
Yeah.
But I'm completely healed right now, but I know we wanted to start off on another foot. So whatever avenue you guys want to go in, I'm ready to go.
Man, honestly too, it makes my heart so happy that you're healed, man, because I don't even care if we're going off. This is so great because it's so real that in my ceremony, watching my wife process that horrible trauma that caused her so much sickness, so much grief that I witnessed with her for years and years, there is nothing that I felt more strongly about that people need to experience than genuine healing. And now we're talking to someone that went through 42 years before you went deep within and were able to finally heal.
And I saw the place I went to, and I saw miracle after miracle after miracle. And I'm telling you, once you see it in person, you're like, dude, the writers in Hollywood, they couldn't make this up, right?
Right.
That's how special it was. And
I love that.
Once you admit the truth to what you've become, and I'll get into all that. They have this set up in a way. There's three things. Your intentions are so important, as you guys know, right? They're extremely, extremely important. So I went to Rythmia in Costa Rica.
I know all about that.
So many good things about that.
Yes.
Dude, it's the #1 rated resort of any kind in the world on TripAdvisor. Any kind. That's just right there.
There's a documentary, and he's in it, and we're actually interviewing the guy that filmed that documentary. It's
Gary?
Tupac and
no, Michael Zappos.
Zappos. Yeah.
They had a was that film The Reality of Truth? I think was one that kicked it off.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Oh, you guys are in that?
No, we're interviewing him next week.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you guys, I saw where you just got, you're starting to get some people that have a prominence, right?
Right.
You know, in the type of, I guess, industry or whatever you want to say that we're kind of involved with. So that's amazing for you guys. Can be happier for you guys. So yeah, keep it coming from that aspect.
Well, cool, man. Let's jump into it because I'm so grateful and happy. You know, it's crazy too with this collective. I keep going off on tangents, but with the collective consciousness, when you heal, part of the collective consciousness heals. Like part of everything.
We're all connected.
We're all connected,
and, like,
dude.
You get it once you do Ayahuasca.
1,000,000%. My story has that in it too, right? So yeah, I can't wait to get to it.
I'm so excited. I'm like, where do we start?
It's pretty funny too, but let's start from kind of the beginning or wherever you guys want to go.
What you went through,
so
like what made you?
Yeah.
So reading over your story, it looks like you had a freaking pretty traumatic childhood, man. Take us through that. Take us through your childhood.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep it high level because we all have these, you know, crazy long stories. If you guys need to drill down, let me know. But,
nope, you take it, man.
So my mom, I live in the greater Philadelphia area, and I was raised around here. I was born in Reading, Pennsylvania. And so my mom got married to my father, and my dad lived on top of a bar. My grandparents owned the bar, and they were only married for maybe like a year or two before they got divorced. And you know, as I got older, I heard stories of my dad always said to this day he never knew why they got divorced. Never knew. My mom's passed on. She passed on maybe 5 years ago, but he never knew, and that may come into play a little bit. So after a year or two, and I heard she was like a go-go dancer and these types of things, and that'll come into play too. But after that, she met a gentleman from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is about 30 miles away from Reading, and he took on. There were 4 of us, right? Well, there were 3 of us at the time, and he took on those 3, and then they had a child together. And they stayed married to like 6th or 7th grade. You know what? It was okay. I didn't know it at that point in time. Now, back then, he did smack me in the face, and they took the belt, and they did all those types of things, but I never really thought that was too bad. But there was zero love. She never told me she loved me. I never would like sit on her lap. There was no love at all. And when you're going through it, you don't really realize that, right?
No.
And so I was raised like that, and up till maybe about 7th grade, 6th, 7th grade, they got divorced. And then all hell broke loose when she met her 3rd husband. So she meets her 3rd husband, and I'm living in kind of the city of Lancaster where I'm walking to stores. I got playgrounds. I got baseball parks. I got all these types of friends. And I'm kind of the class clown with the loud mouth, as you can already tell. And so she meets this guy from Georgia, and he had a ton of issues. I didn't know it at the time. He moves us 20 miles out into the country where I had 0 friends. I couldn't walk to even any stores. And he starts mentally abusing me, like on a daily basis. And then eventually it turned physical, right? But after about a year of being with him out in I'll call it the boonies, right?
Yeah.
I sat my mom down at I'll never forget this moment. This is a pivotal moment, and it plays a story in my healing as well. I sat her down at the kitchen table, and I looked her right in the eyes, and I begged and pleaded, and I said, this guy's mentally abusing me. He told me he's going to physically abuse me. My life is a living hell. I'm like, you have to take me out of here. And she looked across the table, and she just said, it's God's will for me to make him a better person. Now, at 13, I had no clue what that meant, right? Zero clue. From that, the minute she said that, our relationship was totally broken. And looking back now, you know, I smoked weed. I started drinking, kind of wanted to just I was a huge binge partier, right?
Yeah, man.
So I wouldn't come home. I'd sleep in like frickin' sheds, and, you know, I saw counselors all through high school. Jeez. And don't get me wrong, I still kind of led my life. But it was just a living hell living with this guy until I was 18, and I just got out of there, right? I eventually moved up back to that same bar. Now my dad owned it and lived on top of that. You can, when you're 18, 19, and 20, that's not going to be conducive for a good environment to try to make it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I always had this light inside of me. I've always been connected to the universe. I've always came out of my body. I always astral traveled. I talked to my dead grandmother in dreams. I would have dreams about other people. I'd walk up to these people and say, "Hey, did this just happen? Yeah, this just happened." I'd be driving my car and find myself I'd find myself 1,000 feet up, looking at myself driving the car, and then boom, whack down on my body. So I always knew there was a higher power, and that I was always connected in different ways. Although it's tough to talk to anybody about that because they're like, "Who's this lunatic?" That kind of thing. Cool. So I won't go any further there. When I was about 21, I knew I had to get off the streets. I was selling drugs. I was, running around getting in fights, doing all the bad things, ready to go to jail pretty much. Sure. And I'm like, I saw no other outlet, so I put myself in the military, Wow. That worked out for me. And then I later went to college. My 20s were a complete blur. It was all partying, drugs. Went to college, met a great group of friends, but I partied my way right out of there. I'm going to tell you a key pivotal role. But at this point in my late 20s, I started giving back. I worked as a counselor at a juvenile detention center, right? Oh, nice. So I started giving back to the kids and everything. Started figuring out, and let me back up a second. When she sat me there and said that it's God's will for me to make him a better person, I made it my life's mission. I'm like, how can somebody do that to their child? So on and off, I started researching and gathering information, and I came to the realization sometime in my late 20s, early 30s, it's all conditioning, right? It had happened to her. She didn't know any better. She was repeating behavior.
You realize that at that age? Most people don't realize that their whole lives.
Well, because I started researching, and this is going to play into my healing as well, and this is what changed my life. I was 30 years old and, intelligent guy. I was making like 20 grand a year at a juvenile detention center. This is in the late 90s. And but I'm still getting suspended from work. I'm drinking. I'm not coming in on time. You know the story, right? So I met this woman, younger girl, maybe 22, 23, and I was probably like, I was 29, 30. And we were out driving around Lancaster one night, and we came up to a house, and these were like $1 million houses, right? And she goes, "This is my old house." And I just go, "That's amazing." I said, "I could never have anything like this." And she's like, "Why not?" I'm like, "I just couldn't." And she's like, "Why not?" And I go, "I just couldn't." And she asked again, and I go, I don't have an answer for her. Right. The first time in my life, I did not have an answer for her. So for next week, I walked around and thought about that. Within a month, I was back in school. Within 3 months, I resigned from my job, went back down to the college where I went before. Within a year, I was working full-time at a bank. I was going to school full-time.
So I got chills.
At the same time,
I got chills.
I went from making 20 grand to 70 grand in a year. And then within 3 or 4 years, I graduated college, and I was one of the best workers at my job because of one sentence. Because I trusted her. The first person I ever truly trusted in my life said one sentence, and it caused all that. So I know working on yourself, right? And if I would have never been researching about conditioning and all that other stuff, I probably wouldn't have listened to her. So that was a key pivotal moment in my life. Trust. I learned about trust. So before I get into, that helped me out. But I was still, from a relationship perspective, if you don't mind, I'll just flow here.
Go,
From a relationship perspective, I was never faithful, dating woman after woman after woman, a ton of one-night stands. And what I later figured out was that, my mom had put me in so many bad positions all of my life that I was going to try to control the woman before the woman could control me. And I had maybe 4 long-term relationships, but I never once ever contemplated any future with any of them. Yeah. Right. And this went on till, and this is really pivotal. I'm going to jump ahead just to show you about, can I continue to work on myself? You know, philosophy, psychology, spirituality, quantum physics, it all boils down here, right?
So
at that
cool.
one point. So I just was like all over the place I'm trying to figure out stuff, right? Well, I got to the point where I gave up on relationships. And let me tell you what happened. You guys are going to love this. So I started getting irritable bowel syndrome, breaking out with, and this is over like a period of 5 to 10 years. Irritable bowel syndrome, breaking out with acne on my head, adult acne, itching all over my body, changing my sheets, changing my soap, nothing worked. Eyeballs are itching, nose hairs bristly. Then finally, because I wasn't paying attention to the universe and the signs, finally universe, because I'm a big runner, universe says, you know what, I'm going to have to take running away from you, my friend, because you're just not quite listening to me. So my joints start getting sore. I was getting all these tests and everything was done. And finally I couldn't take it no more. I go, got to go to a counselor. Went to the counselor and I said, I want to be in a relationship. It's been 9 years. I can't figure out how to do it. In the meantime, my friends are like, dude, you're a good looking guy. Just go out and grab one. I'm like, if it was that easy, I would do it. I can't do it. So I went to the counselor. Here's what she said. You guys know what she's going to say. You got to go back and forgive your mom. You got to go back and forgive your mom. Now, at this point, I'd only talked to her maybe 2-3 times in 25 years, 20 years, whatever it is. So she planted that seed. It didn't take root at that point. But a couple months later, jumped in the shower one day, go up to the nursing home. And guess what? She's sitting in there. Guess who else is sitting in there? That stepfather who mentally and physically abused me. He's at the nursing. I got a 2-for-1 deal going on. So
the universe is really setting you up for this one.
For this one, I walk in and we won't get into the whole thing, but it lasted 5 hours. He might have chirped in once or twice and I kind of shut him down and he didn't say anything. He's sitting over there now, diabetic, legs cut off at the knees, blind. So I'm like, you know what? I figured out a lot. I'm not going to be cruel to you.
Right.
So talk to her. We don't need to get into everything, and went out to my car, bawled my eyes out.
Beautiful.
This is the unbelievable part. All that energy gone after all that time.
You processed it, man.
It's so crazy. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And here's the unbelievable part. And I shit you not, 2 weeks later, not after 9 years of being single and being tormented, 2 weeks later, I re-met a woman that I just had a summer fling with at college when we were really young, hadn't seen her in over 20 years. We were at a homecoming at that same university. She was going through a divorce, had 4 kids, and she's thinking to herself, who the hell is going to want me? I'm in my early 40s. I'm going through divorce. I have 4 kids. Well, I worked at a juvenile detention center. At this point, I've been a mentor with big brothers, big sisters for like 10 or 15 years. I was in training. The universe put us back together, instant love. We got engaged, and now we've been married we've been living together for 4 years.
That's awesome.
I'm living with the stepchildren, and it's total bliss. It's unbelievable.
Wow. Everything happens for a reason. Like you did that line of work to prepare you for this, and it's all about divine timing, and you have to feel it to heal it. That's awesome, man.
It's friggin' amazing. It's so friggin' amazing. And I think I can just keep going right into my story, right? I think we're flowing pretty good.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would ask real quick. I'm just curious, man.
Oh yeah, you jump in.
No, there's so much good stuff. First of all, you need to write a book. I mean, 100%.
Well,
got to write a book.
I will tell you this right now. I'm extremely creative, and I'd love to chat to you offline about some of these things as well.
Oh,
but I am writing a movie right now. It's part true, but part fiction, and it deals with, I'll just put it to you, it's pretty cool, and I'd love to chat with you about this offline.
Man, we're all about collaborating.
I can't give up this secret to my script right now.
Not at all, man. Not at all. I get that. That's awesome, man. Hey, you know what's cool about being in this world, and since we've jumped in it and the ayahuasca and the healing and all that, once you heal or get mostly healed on that path of healing, you really can come from an altruistic place of a greater good. Like you do things And yet nothing wrong with people have money. It's great to have money, but the purpose isn't the money. The money is the byproduct. It's actually to serve a higher purpose of like helping and healing people. So collaborating becomes so much more exciting because you're on the same page. You're here on a freaking mission, you know, to like help the world. So that's awesome, man.
That's why I love talking. That's why I love talking to you guys.
Yeah, no, this is all happening for a reason. Man. There's no coincidence. I threw coincidence out the window a long time ago. Random question though. So you said your mom said it's God's will. Did you? One of my questions was, did you grow up religious or spiritual? But also, did you find it's hard not to? But did you get any resentment from God in that moment for that happening? Like, I mean,
no, not in that moment because I didn't even. You know what? I grew up. My stepfather, my mom. I've never talked to anybody about any topic like that. Okay. I just raised myself completely.
Wow.
And it's looking back on it now, when you're in it, you just think that's how it is, right? Yeah. I didn't know that, hey, you want to date a girl. Let me tell you, let me give you some tips on this. Or oh, you're trying to do X. Let me help you. There was none of that, right? So I never talked about. Now, we did go to church when I was probably in like elementary school, but it wasn't faithfully. So I really didn't know about, but I knew innately that religion was false, right? It's a man-made fear-based ideology. I didn't have those words then, but I knew it wasn't. But yeah, so that didn't really play, you know, religion and spirit, but I started, let me just tell you this because this is important. This is what I knew. When I was 12 years old, and have you guys ever heard of the miniseries Roots?
Roots, no.
Mm-mm.
So it's a mini series about slavery.
Okay.
And in like 19, I'm dating myself. Go back here, I'm a little older than you guys, but it was the first big mini series in television. It was about slavery, bringing the slaves over, right? And I remember when I was 12 years old, I couldn't stay up for the whole thing. I went up to my bedroom and I thought to myself, and I'm like, how can somebody treat people like that? I just couldn't understand it, and I got this deep sadness. And I've always thought back to that point in my life. So I know that I'm a good person at heart. And I know almost 99.9% of people in this world are good. And then conditioning turns them to negativity and fear. Right.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I've always believed. So from that point, that's really the only thing on the lines of spirituality or religion that played a point. Because remember, after that, I started astral traveling and leaving my body. Yeah. And then I started reading up on, first I got into UFO stuff, and it's kind of then, you know, spirituality and all that kind of stuff, right?
I've always thought Maegen was an alien, so that's kind of everything.
I love going down the rabbit hole. Love it.
I get that thing about having to forgive your mom too. You know, my mom, I love her to death, but her and my dad got married super young, like 17, 18. So I have no resentment or blame for this, but you know, she wasn't faithful early on in the marriage at all. And I saw that when I was like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And for some reason, my early relationships, I'd be so hyper jealous so quickly because my child mind thought that was the norm, that the wife cheats, the partner just cheats. That's what and I didn't know why I would just get so jealous. And it was so unhealthy. Mm-hmm. And whenever we got together, you know, part of like finding your partner is it forces you to grow. And I realized real quick, I had to go back. I had to forgive my mom.
I wasn't going to put up with that.
I had to forgive my mom for that. I had to
Megan's like, no, I don't want none of that.
Hell no. I was like, I've been through enough.
I had to like do, which psychedelics helped with. That's a whole other story. But I had to do some inner healing myself, forgive that situation,
but also,
and then just release it.
But where I thought you were going was your father. Like you have to forgive your father also because he's completely the ultimate betrayal. You know,
I heard I listened to that too because you sat him down, a little Burning Man or something like that. I think you said, man, right?
Yeah,
mushrooms.
It was freaking mushrooms, man. All I did was and he flipped. He's still. I mean, it's been years.
Still
turned half my family against me.
But you did the bigger thing. He like showed up, didn't tell me he was going to show up. Showed up to like just at least put effort towards it.
Yeah. So basically, what happened was, and I'll try and make this quick.
Yeah, I want to hear more about you.
Before ayahuasca, we did we had a little mini mushroom ceremony basically to get clarity on purpose on ayahuasca. And the message that came to me was, And it was so hard to do because my father and I hadn't spoke for years and years. And I had a lot of resentment because he made me out to be like this horrible, crazy drug addict. My whole family thinks psychedelics is the devil. They think psychedelics is just like heroin. But in the trip, it said, you need to go forgive your father, even though, you know, he's not going to talk to you for years and years, but you have to take the first step. So I actually found he's an air marshal. He found out where he was staying. I flew out there, surprised him at his hotel after years, and told him, I just said, I'm sorry for what I was like whenever I was in my binge drinking, but I just want you to know, wherever you're at, I forgive you for missing my wedding. I forgive you for turning your back. I forgive you.
Oh, crap. Missed the wedding.
I've never even met him.
Missed the wedding. He's never met Megan. He's never met Megan.
He still doesn't, even after David, I get excited. Even after David doing that, he still doesn't reach out on holidays, doesn't respond. Like, it wasn't
effective from his standpoint, but it was effective for me having to do what I needed to do for myself. I forgave him for my healing, what I need to do with my purpose, what we're trying to create with this. I had to heal that part of me and at least forgive him. Yeah. And whatever he does after this is his own decision. And unfortunately for him, it didn't have, as much of an impact as I was hoped it would have had, but it is what it is. You know, you can only control, yourself, and you have to do what heals you, and he's on his own path,
you know what? That's awesome that you think like that. There's not much you can do. Just put the forgiveness out there so you don't have to carry it with you, or else that's just going to prevent you from moving forward into whatever particular avenue that you need to move forward to get to where you need to get to, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's bring it back to you now. That was a little tangent.
All right,
So, tell us about, so before you got to ayahuasca, did you try other modalities of healing? What is it that led you to ayahuasca? Like, how did it even come up? What led you to it? Tell us about that.
This is perfect because we can just continue on with the story. So I'm doing a ton of research here, and I knew that when I was working in whatever job I was in, and I worked for some some of the biggest companies in the world, we had a lot of events where they needed somebody to write a script for like some type of variety show or, do some fun things. And I would always write them. We'd always come in first place. I always loved doing that. Once I got into software, I started creating a lot of events from scratch, really kind of unique events, adding an entertainment element, a hook. I would integrate the elevator pitch of the software with the personality of a character. And I'd write it into I'll give you a quick one. So I sold business intelligence software, and I found an event, a huge event, one of these traveling museums where they were doing, it was all around the KGB and CIA gathering intelligence, right? So I saw the connection there. So what I did was I took the elevator pitch of our product and I integrated it with 3 spy characters, James Bond, Maxwell Smart, and Ethan Zahn from Mission Impossible. And then I integrated those stories together. I played listen to this bucket list. I played all 3 characters. So I came out, it was a black tux. I came out in a black tux to the James Bond theme. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It was so cool. I was at a partner and I took this idea to them and they're like, we've never seen anything like this before. It was so unique. I got to see it. And at the end of the event, he was like, dude, he goes, I think you're doing the wrong thing here. But anyway, that's what I've always loved to do. Now, I like sales because I love solving problems for people. I like helping people, but the cutthroat and all this other stuff of it, I can't do it. So after I got, after I met my wife and figured that relationship side out, I'm like, I got to figure this work thing out over here. So now I'm like, man, I worked my butt off for 20 years. I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful family. I'm in a family, man. This is going good, but I got to work on this over here. So, it just wasn't working out. I get a good role at a company, maybe make some money, and then wham, bam, some new manager would come in. Or now I know that I'm creating all this myself. I'm doing it all, right? But it's because when your thoughts don't meet your actions, negativity comes up. That's how you know you're not doing the right thing. So over the next 6 years leading up to now, I'm like, I'm at the end of my rope. I can't figure it out. Plus, the other factor is, I moved into this home with the 3 children. The older child's been out since college. I moved in here, and now I have to go from living by myself for 9 years, moving in here to where I'm in the shower, they flush the toilet. Ah! So, I want to be the best stepfather, best brother, uncle, father, neighbor, friend. And there's some conditions I know are so repressed that I can't get to. Mm-hmm. So maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I came across ayahuasca. Mm-hmm. And I started researching it here or there. It'd pop up. I'd get into it and I'd leave it go. Yeah. So maybe about 6-7 months ago, she started calling. She started ramping it up. She started ramping it up. And at this point, I was out of options because I'm like, just one more book I got to figure it out. Just one more book.
Yeah,
It's always, wait a minute, this is the one. You're never going to figure it out, right? So now the hard part is, honey, I'm headed to the jungle. I'll be back in a week.
Right.
So, and she's very cool. She's very supportive, but she's not quite where we are. She's not quite there yet. I think she may get to that point. So I started trying to show her videos. Now Rythmia, I'll talk a little bit about Rythmia. Rythmia, again, is they've had 7,000 people through the door. They've been open for 4 years. The guy who owns it actually is from like 2 hours away from me, which is a huge plus. So listen how I sold her. You know how I sold her? Rythmia had somebody who visited. It was actually, I think his name is Jack Canfield. He's the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yeah, I'm
like, honey, look, the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy's been there.
It can't be bad.
It's got to be good. So I finally sold her on it, and I'm like, dude, I booked it. I'm like, man, this is gonna happen. Oh, and then I'm like, well, if this shit don't cure me, I'm out of luck, right? Did you guys get those feelings when you were?
I was just terrified because my past is just so horrific that like
I listened to your story too.
Yeah,
I did.
I was just terrified of like reliving it, like seeing it happen again. But then you know what else is some of my conditioning, even though I know this stuff, some of my conditioning came back where I was just like, oh my God, I don't want to go to a realm where I see like demonic things or like demonic beings. And it's like, like, it's so crazy how like, even though I get it, it's like I still every once in a while like struggle with those conditioning beliefs.
Her family's super conditioned Catholic, so they're all.
Man,
it's the devil! It's the devil.
I was terrified. Yeah. I was terrified of going.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I did. But I watched, that documentary, the one what is it called?
The Reality of Truth.
Yeah.
The Reality of Truth. I watched that too. I started doing I really ramped up and did all the videos, the Rythmia videos, and I got to the point where I'm like, all right, now I got to make this call. Can I make this call? And, I made the call, and then he's like, well, put $500 down. You don't have to, la, 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 la. And Rythmia is pretty expensive, but I'm like, you know what? It's very, very safe. I can sell my wife on this. This is a good way to start. And eventually I just, booked a trip. And that was it. It was going to go. And
that's so cool of your wife too, to be like, well, it's not my thing, but I have faith and trust in you. And that's so cool for your wife to do that because of, as you know, the such heavy burden of conditioning and programming that's out there right now. That's awesome. Awesome of your wife to be supportive.
So tell me what it's like there though. Like, is it's luxury, right?
Oh yeah. So let me tell, so Rythmia, the guy who started Rythmia, he wanted to commit suicide a couple times. He's actually a great businessman. Actually sold a couple companies. The last one, he netted $60 million in cash. But he figured out money wasn't making him happy. He was a drug addict, cheating on his wife. The stories he tells when you're down there, the guy is an unbelievable speaker.
But was it ayahuasca that he took, or was it something different? So
it was something different in the beginning. It was iboga, right?
That's right, and he sold like his
But with iboga, you need somebody to guide you. It's rougher than ayahuasca. You need somebody to guide you. Yeah, but what he did was, I won't get into the whole story, but he went down to Costa Rica, and he met his shaman like at McDonald's eating a Big Mac. So it's a pretty fun. That was his shaman, right? But I won't go into the whole story, but he ended up going out to Malibu, astral traveling on Iboga to meet his spirit, and his spirit was sitting in his house, and the spirit wouldn't talk to him because the spirit's like, you lie to me all the time. You say you're going to do A, B, and C. You do X, Y, and Z.
Wow.
I'm not talking to you. So finally the spirit said, you know what? I'm going to give you one last chance. The next thing you knew, Jerry found himself on the moon. You guys should go out. He has a book. It's called Shit the Moon Said.
Okay.
The book's unbelievable. If anybody out there wants to read that book,
Yeah.
I would say just go out and read, and then you can find out his personal story. But the moon told him basically, Miss Moon, it was a moon. And I'll let you read the book.
Yeah.
But she said, you know what? You're going to go down. And he kept going back down and doing more Iboga trips. They're like, you're going to go down to Costa Rica, but you're going to open up a resort. It's going to be Ayahuasca because it's self-guided. It's lighter. You're not going to do Iboga. So he went down there and bought this resort without even having it licensed or anything, right? And then he only started having like 3, 4, 5 people a week. After a year and a half, he got it licensed. Now I went through it with 90 people. Ooh. Now you're like 90 people, that's a lot, but the Maloka it's so beautiful for so many reasons. The bed, it's high end. I'll tell you how much it costs about with all in with, so I think it was $3,900 for the week, $400 they want cash, and then your airfare. So you're talking $5,000 to get into it, right?
Yeah.
But to each their own. Their own.
Right.
They have a methodology and a program that's regimented. It's spiritual. It's metaphysical. You do yoga in the mornings. You have massages. You can get like colonics. It's
wow. I love this.
It's farm to table, all farm to table. They have a chef there. She does a lot. You can look her up on YouTube, Chef Meg. She's unbelievable.
Meg.
So let me just get into my trip because you guys are gonna love this. So I live outside of Philadelphia. I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. Well, it just turns out that guess who's playing in the playoff game as I'm flying down there? The Philadelphia Eagles, right? So now I'm like, I can't watch. What am I going to do? So now I get to the airport in Costa Rica, and you meet like 4 or 5 other people. They were all women, and we got in a van and we're traveling, and the reality of it hit me, and I started having like buyer's remorse. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Is this right? You know, what's going on? So I get there, and now the second half of the playoff game is going to come on, and they wanted us to do what they call breath work. Have you guys ever heard of breath work?
Oh yeah. She actually coaches it.
Coach breath work. So then I'm saying to myself, like, breath work? What's that going to do for me? Breath work? That's nothing.
Oh, breathing? I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch the second half of this game. So I told one of the women on the shuttle. I just said nonchalantly, I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to go to breath work. I have some work I need to do before the week starts, so I can just get it done. But really, I'm trying to watch the Eagles.
Right.
Plus, I was scared to go intermingle with people. I was afraid. And she looked me right in the eye, and she goes, you spent all this money to come down here, and you're going to miss the first class? She goes, you need to attend every class. I went back in my room. I'm walking around. I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I go, Tony, you've been waiting your whole life to come here. Get over there. Yeah. Shut my laptop down, walked over, started the breath work. They had the most like beautiful music going. They were coaching you through it. It was just a gorgeous environment. And after 30 minutes, my body started vibrating like it's never vibrated before, ever.
Experience that. Yes, my hands.
Ever.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I found myself in a dark, shiny, blissful place. And I knew from all the research that I've done, this is where everything in the universe emanates from. It's where everything comes from, right? And then all of a sudden, I just had all this information downloaded in my head. I didn't hear a voice. You just know it, right?
Yeah.
It said, you love your wife and your stepchildren unconditionally. You've tried so hard to overcome everything, but you're your own worst enemy. You get in your own way. You got to learn how to get out of your way. but it just kept telling me over and over that I was a good person. And I started bawling, crying, and the love that I felt was unbelievable. So when the breath work ended, they had a microphone that came around, and I grabbed the microphone and I told the story, and everybody gave you a big round of applause. And I went back to my room, and I'm like, that set the tone for the whole week. Wow. If I wouldn't have went there, it just set the tone for the whole week. It was
that. Whoa.
It was insane. It was insane.
That's breath work. It's crazy how powerful breath work can really be. She had a similar experience.
Yeah, where I felt vibrations. It was crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
it was nuts. And then from there, they have a late dinner, and now you're in your room. You're like, okay, well, I got to get down and meet all these 89 other maniacs like myself. You know, who are these? You know, I saw them in there, but they're people just like us. You wouldn't, if you were at the grocery store, they look like anybody else. It's not like hippies or deadheads. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but people are like, well, who am I going to see down here? What type of people? But they all pretty much look the same. And they were from Canada, from the U.S. They were from England. Had one girl was from China. So they were kind of all, and that's when you first get to meet people. And I'm like, you know what? This is going to be all right. So they had it all mapped out. You would attend. So the ayahuasca ceremonies, the first, it's going to be 4 in a row. It's going to be, that was Sunday night. They're going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be from like 5:30 to 2 in the morning. Thursday, it's just unbelievable. They bring in shamans from Colombia. It's from 8 at night until 9, 10 in the morning. And they do, I don't want to skip ahead, but they do a 4 or 5 shamans come past you and totally do this healing session on you with oils all over your whole body. I don't know if you went through anything like that.
Wow.
But it was so cool. But let me back up, and we'll get into ceremony number 1.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, ceremony. Now I'm kind of riding. I'm riding high. I'm skating around. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, from Philly, man. Great to meet you. You know, so feeling really good about myself, starting to make some friends. And we go to the ceremony now. You get the ceremony, your first ceremony. Megan, you know how, David, you know, this is, you're kind of feeling like, what's this going to be like? Now, this place is high end, 90 beds. It was kind of like in a T shape, I'll say. The beds are real close together, a bucket at the end of each bed. Nice comfy blanket. The music, I didn't know the music was going to be so unbelievable. Oh my God. That's all I listened to. That's all I listened to.
Oh my gosh, it's so powerful.
Yeah, I have chills just from you like mentioning it.
That music was stuck in our heads for weeks after.
Because I'm getting all the feel, like I literally have chills.
And I love, they have like the kind of indigenous, you know, in the Maloka, they had like people with musical instruments, but then they had like more of like the EDM type tribal music, which I thought was really cool.
I would love that. Yeah.
I'll have to send you guys some of that. I mean,
yes,
really cool.
Please do. Seriously.
So, and I'll tell you what, Mother Ayahuasca is a divine intelligence that we can't comprehend.
Yes.
She will, and I know we talked about this, I think, texting. She doesn't show you what you want. She shows you what you need to heal yourself, heal yourself. So Rythmia has this, they have 3 things. First thing is, show me what I've become. Who am I? How did I get there? All right. Once it shows you how you become, your next intention is merge me back with my soul at any cost, because they say at some point between the ages of maybe 1 or 2 and 6, because of some type of an event, you split from your soul. Right. Nice. And I need to merge back with your soul. The third thing is heal my heart. Right. And if you read his book, Jerry Powell, you'll know more about that. So first night, I'm like, show me what I've become. Now I'm a little bit apprehensive. I'm like, you know, I have this blissful, loving relationship with my wife. And one of the things she was scared about is, hey, you're going to come back a changed person, or, you know, what's going to happen? I'm like, I'm not going to move to Tibet and become a monk or anything. I'm going to be me, but a better me.
Right.
So I'm like, what's it going to show me about my wife? Right. It doesn't mess around. First thing it shows me, you go up and you stand in these long lines, you drink the brew, come back and lay on your bed. first you take the rapé when you snort did you do that?
No.
Oh, so that you have this tobacco and you go and kneel in front of they're in the Maloka, there was 90 of us. There's probably like 4 or 5 shamans, another 10 to 12 workers. So there's a ton of people in there, right?
Right.
So you kneel and they take this tobacco, they put it up to your nose. It's a long tube, and they blow it in there, and they kind of ground you, right? Which was cool. So now I did that.
Right. I could have used some grounding, let me tell you.
So I went up, took the first cup, came back, waited for it to kick in. She doesn't mess around. She only showed me one snippet about my wife, and that was fantastic because I knew things were pretty much good with her. You know what it showed me? It showed me after about a year, when I moved in after about a year, I was, all the conditioning I had brought in by myself being single, I was getting better, but I was still, to her, having some problems. And we went to counseling. But at the time, I'm like, why do you want me to go to counseling? I'm acclimated okay. And the medicine showed me that she was just protecting her children. She took you there, and you've come a hell of a long way. So it gave me affirmation. It just said, you've done a fantastic job, and that we don't need to talk about her anymore. It was literally like a couple minutes. So that was gone. Now, it didn't mess around. There's 2 storylines we'll get into over the 3 days that healed me. So storyline number 1, it just showed me all of a sudden my mom dancing as a go-go girl, right? And this was a vision, right? So I just saw her kind of dancing. It's not crystal clear, but you know what it is.
Right.
And it said to me, don't you ever judge your mom. Your mom was whatever, 20, 21, 22. She was doing the exact same thing you were doing at 21, 20, 21, 22. You're going to all your festivals because you're trying to cope with all the bullshit that's in your life. She had to go through hardcore shit. You don't even know what that is yet. So don't ever judge her. And I'm like, wow, that was kind of freaking powerful, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then it doesn't pull any punches. It said to me, do you want to see why she had to go through all that? And I don't even know if I answered, but she was sexually molested by her father. And I had to see it. And I had to see it. And, I will just say that I had to watch it. It was a vision. And I saw this blood come over the scene. And it was just, it also told me that it most likely happened to her sister and to her brother. And I'm going to pause here to tell you a story for validation. When I was like in my mid-20s, her brother, my uncle, I went down to his beach house. I never hung out with the guy at all, right? But he would never come around with women when we were younger. And if you're gay, you're gay, whatever, right? So I go down with a couple of my buddies. In the morning, we wake up. We all kind of slept in this one area. Went to go get donuts with my friend or something. He goes, let me come with you. So we're driving in a car. Now, it's kind of funny the way you say it, but really not. He goes, hey, man, I got to tell you something. I'm like, well, what? What do you have to tell me? And he goes, I'm going to use a politically correct word, but he goes, well, last night your uncle grabbed my penis. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, dude. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, last night your uncle grabbed my penis. And I'm like, what do you mean? He told me a story of he was laying beside him, and on 3 separate occasions it started coming over. So we were thinking, like, I took it, I guess we spun the story, okay, he's gay and he was drunk. But now thinking about it, wait a minute, he was, that doesn't make sense. He was doing behavior that was done to him to somebody else.
Wow.
Which is kind of a real story that might validate, because I'm thinking in my head, am I when you see something like that, you're thinking, I talk to shamans, am I manufacturing this? But I'm like, wait a minute, I got this whole story over here.
Right.
That kind of validates that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it showed me that, and I was sick to my stomach. I was so sick to my stomach. And then it showed me a basement in their house. And I just saw that basement in my dreams before, many, many times in my grandfather's house when we go to visit. I saw that basement, and it was hollow. It was desolate. There was nobody there. It was an eerie feeling. And then there was a room off to the side. And then I started having flashbacks of me being in that room when I was like 1 or 2 years old. And I can't tell you unequivocally if anything happened, but I'm pretty sure something happened or may have happened to me from at his hands.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to deal with that. So let me just put that to the side. I know that's pretty heavy duty stuff, but hey, we're here to tell the truth.
I resonate with it.
So, and I'll get back to that. So it showed me that, and then the next thing I knew, I'm in this space helmet, and I got all this green and this white light, and this big probe, silver probe, comes right in through my third eye, comes right into my brain, and it's the most intense pressure I've ever felt in my life. But no pain, and it starts wiggling around and moving its way around. And I'm like, they're clearing
like opening your third eye,
opening my third eye. But it's going deeper. I'm like, man, they're clearing my whole brain out. What are they doing? And then I felt this hot rod down like my cheek, and I'm like, man, they're really working on me. They're trying to cure me. This is like freaking unbelievable. So I was getting kind of excited about it, and then that lasted for a while, and then I went back to the whole, and that the rest of the night I kept picturing that basement in that room, and I saw what was happening to my mother, and that pretty much is how that night was summed up. So I was effing depressed as shit that night, and the next day I was going up to all these shamans, and I'm like, listen, I got to tell you this story, and I don't even know how to, and they're like, look, don't go calling anybody right now. Just try to process it over the next couple of days. And that helped because I got some clarity. So the next night, so this is what's cool about Rythmia and what's cool about Jerry. So the next day at around 2 and 3 in the afternoon, everybody gets together and you talk about what happened the night before. And one of the things they talk about, he goes, how many people had surgeries? And there was 90 people there, maybe 15 or 20 people raised their hand. What I had done to me is called a surgery, right? Yeah. And they're done by aliens or those little machine elves that run around. I don't know if you experienced that at all. I heard stories. No. So, for example, somebody said, yeah, these little machine elves were coming in there talking to each other, and they had power tools. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. Let's do it over here. Are we going to do it over here? And I'm like, you can't make this shit up.
No, I know. Make it up. Yeah.
And it was this is by multiple people. These are tons of people telling the same thing. And I'm like, this is the most unbelievable experience I've ever had in my life. Right. I'm on my way. I'm in a negative part right now. So Jerry goes, who had surgeries? I raised my hand. He came around. He goes, what did you have? And I told him about my brain surgery. And he goes, why do you think you had that? And I go, they were cleaning my third eye out. And then for some reason I blurted out, or maybe I'm an overthinker. I'd never thought that thought before. I said, maybe I'm an overthinker. It gets good.
Wow.
So I process that, and then that night 2, I come back in, and it doesn't mess around. We go right back to my mom and my grandfather, and we start getting in. I start seeing that basement again. And now I start getting pissed at my grandfather because I was already pissed. And I'm like, you ruined her life. This is bullshit. And it said, do you want to see why he did that? I said, yes. I said, yes. It showed me in a vision, if you go maybe 6 to 8 inches wide, it showed me him being sexually abused by his father, his father being sexually, and it just went back like generation after generation after, and I saw it physically. It's nasty. Mm-hmm. And I said, shut it off. And it just shut it off.
Oh, it's good to know they can do that. Yeah.
I got so angry, but then in that instance, and I'll back up a second, before I went, Jerry, the owner, said, do this before you come. List number 1, from the time you can remember, 3 or 4 years old, whatever. Write down a list of people that did something bad to you and you forgive them. My list was like 100 people. And then the next list, it said, these are the people that you did something wrong to that still haven't forgiven you, but forgive them for not forgiving you. And I wrote that whole list down, right?
Wow.
It knew I had to prepare for this, right? So I did all that work. So while I was going through that experience, I said to myself, I need to forgive all. It just comes to you. I said, I need to forgive all these people. So I was bawling, I was crying. I just told everybody that a whole lineage back that I forgive everybody. And then I told my grandfather, I said, it's not your fault. It was done to you. You didn't know any better. And in that instant, I freaking healed my entire lineage. My grandfather's face popped up. He always had this mean look on his face. It went from a mean look to a smile, and he just looked at me and said, good job.
Oh my God.
Man, I resonate with that. Because I always wonder, whenever I finally started the healing process, for the first time in my life, I had the thought come to me like, well, to be able to finally forgive my, stepfather, it was like, I wonder what he went through to make him such a evil person. So like,
there you have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you have it. So now I got that out. I'm bawling, crying, but then all of a sudden, here's the space helmet on again, right? So I got the space helmet, and all of a sudden, here it comes again. I'm like, wait a minute, man, we already did this surgery. But now, instead of this big probe, it's a tiny little probe. It goes in there, and I could hear it cleaning it out. It was going.
That is so
and it's cleaning it out.
wild.
I'm like, wait a minute. I said, oh, the job's not done yet. Man, they're doing some intricate work on that right now. So they're doing that. So then after they did that, I was just feeling this joy from forgiving my whole lineage. And all of a sudden I felt this warm, like one of those heavy blankets laid over me, this warmth, this love that I never felt before. And here comes the snake, Mother Ayahuasca. She was like hollow, right? But she came in, and then she kind of flexed her fangs out a little, and she just kind of stopped over me, and I was looking up, and she just said, she goes, from now on out, you never have to worry about anything again, because I'm going to protect you.
Well, that's comforting.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. So that was but I was ecstatic. All the healers, the music, they were dancing around. And I'm like, this place is so beautiful. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And I got out of there that night. The next day I'm bouncing around. I'm really, really, in such a great mood. I'm so happy. And I'm figuring to myself, I'm like, okay, well, I figured out what I've become. And here's the thing I want to tell everybody. Once you admit your truth, once you admit who you are, who you've become, there's no other way it can be. You are instantly healed. I instantly merged back with my soul, and my heart was healed. Sometimes people will actually interact with their soul. They might heal their heart. They might see a heart in some different ways, but I was instantly healed, right? And I walked around, and I knew that, but there was still some unfinished business. So jump into the third night, get in there, and now I'm like, all right, well, I set my intention. I'm like, you know what? I didn't see my soul. I said, I'm pretty sure of who I've become, but if I need to merge back with my soul still, I'd love to see my soul, right? So that was kind of my intention going in. So got in there, and the first thing it started doing was we didn't have to go back to my mom anymore because that was figured out, right? But here I am with this darn helmet on again. Here comes the third surgery, right? Here comes the third surgery. So it's coming again, and I was like, no, you can't do this. This is done. They're like, don't worry about it. We're just dusting off the connection. I'm like, dusting off the connection. So I saw this big thing in my brain, top of my brain, and then all of a sudden this cord comes down, this silver cord, and all this energy's flying off of it. It's red. All this energy's flying off of it. Then all of a sudden, all these lights are going on. Something grips my face and head. It was the tightest. There was never any pain. It was the tightest grip I've ever been gripped on. And a metal wires came around my face, and it just said to me, hold tight because this is going to happen. And I was like, I said, I'm ready. Make it happen. So I had the connection site open. Here comes the cord. It jacked in, and I literally started shaking. And This was the most beautiful thing ever. It said 2 words beside the connection site: infinite possibilities. I have the whole universe in me. I have infinite possibilities. And at that point, I got an epiphany of what I figured everything out. Let me go back and tell you what happened. When I'm sitting at that table at 13 years of age, when I told my mom she's got to leave him, and she said it's God's will for me to make him a better person, she wasn't talking about that stepfather. She was trying to heal her father through him. And nobody was going to get in the way of that, including me. And that's what it was. At that point, remember when I told you, I'm like, how could a mother do that to a son? I'm going to make it a point. I'm going to research the living shit out of this and find out why that would happen. I became your classic overthinker, overanalyzer, and I've taken that into all these other aspects of my life. Now when I'm trying to leave one career and go to another, I can't get there because I'm overanalyzing what I'm going to do and how I'm going to figure it out. And now with the infinite possibilities, I know I'm everything and I can do whatever I want. I don't need to do that anymore.
And you got the name to your book too.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, they brought it all together. And then that's how I know I'm completely healed. So now, I won't jump ahead. That was the 3rd night. And when I told that story about the when I told the 3 surgery stories in a row, and I was using some more colorful language you can get away with, right? Not that we couldn't hear. That story brought the house down. So it was really cool. So now the 4th night, I'm going in, and I just basically said, hey, is there anything else? I forget what my intention was exactly, because now I pretty much figured a lot out. It showed me, again, I said I'm pretty creative. I used to love to watch The Apprentice with Trump, and I used to like the competitions. And I had a vision, a dream. They showed me a woman was standing outside the Maloka, and she was just like, I was on The Apprentice. And I woke up and I was like, what the hell does that mean? Right. And I remember Jerry saying, if you want to follow a great path, do that first list of forgiveness. Do the second list of forgiveness. The 3rd thing is just start giving back as much as you can. I've done that a lot with Big Brothers Big Sisters and some other things. But the 4th one is you have to be working in your purpose, in your passion. You have to do it. So for the last 6-7 years, hey, hon, I'm on video. She got done running too. So
nice.
She was on the video. We'll work out, people.
Wait,
awesome.
Yeah. So I said, they like to do different competitions. And in one of the competitions, they had this like an RV where the back came down and you could go in and you could. Anyway, this whole marketing plan. I think I jumped ahead because I lost my spot. So there's one forgiveness list, the second forgiveness list. There is the giving back part, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's the purpose and passion. So for the last 6 or 7 years, I really couldn't, even if I could jump careers, I would have to take a substantial pay cut, right? And that wasn't going to work out because I have to support my family. But here's what Jerry said. Look, we know you can't take substantial pay cut, but just start whatever it is. If you like to make cupcakes, give them away for free. Start giving them away to anybody. If they're that good, people are going to start saying, hey, can I buy your cupcakes? So now, since I've come back, I love being creative with the events. I love helping kids out. So I went back to Big Brothers Big Sisters. It took me a little while, but now I got a meeting set up on Tuesday just to talk to somebody about helping people create events. So now you have the opportunity to work with like-minded people, right? They're going to see how passionate you are, how good at what you're doing. And then eventually somebody like, hey, I'd like to hire you, or hey, you want to work over here. So now I have a path forward to where I can realize, and remember, people, I got infinite possibilities.
Right.
I can do whatever I want. So where I'm at right now is, and I'm talking to like-minded people like yourself right now.
Yeah.
See? I wouldn't have been doing this a little while ago either. So There's a path forward. There's a purpose. There's a path forward. I'm feeling fantastic. You know, you do the diet before you go.
Yeah.
I've stayed along with the diet.
Do they do any like integration work with you, like after ayahuasca? Because I know some places. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, they had a whole session on that about, you just can't rush back here. And like we said, you run up to the urinal. Hey, what's going on, man? You got to kind of, you got to pick and choose who you talk to. And we have, the cool thing is we have a Rythmia group. Our group was 183. Okay. So we have a whole WhatsApp and everybody's been supporting everybody on there.
Cool.
And there's 90 people on there. So let me just tell you I want to tell you this cool synchronicity story. So I met a couple, but I would say 98% of the people down there are by themselves, right? But there are a few couples. So I met another guy by the name of Tony and his wife Genevieve. So the last day we got to go into the town, the week's pretty much over. And I'm talking to Tony and he puts this hat on. It says 13 on the hat. I'm like, dude, what's the 13 all about? I said, I got a tattoo of 13. He goes, why do you have 13? I said, well, I met my wife on the 13th and then we got married on the 13th. And he goes, yeah, I met my wife on the 13th and got married on the 13th too.
What?
And then,
wild.
so I'm like, so I told this story about this other synchronicity about when I was with my wife. I told my wife, I said, listen, honey, I said, it's the ceremony, we're getting married, but I said, I went and found this church called the Unitarian Universalist that accepts any faith, even atheists. So I said, I'd love for that pastor to perform the ceremony because I want all our guests to feel accepted, right? My wife's, man, I love that story, right? So I told them that, and I said, and the girl kept looking at me. She goes, you ain't going to believe this, but my mom's a pastor and married us at the Universalist Unitarian Church, the same church. What are the odds of that?
Whoa.
So love it.
So what I did, and if I could take, our group's 183. So my number's 13. So you have the 1 and 3 on the outside.
Oh yeah.
We took the 8, put it on its side to represent 8 and infinity, and it's in the shape of a snake, like Mother Ayahuasca, and got the old tattoo right here.
Oh, so, we can put it up a little on the camera. I would love to see it.
Yeah.
I'd have to take my shirt off and flex my muscles, David. my wife's laughing. My wife's like, oh, he's a character. But
that's awesome, man. What a synchronicity. That's mind blowing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But the whole experience was just completely unbelievable, and I'm completely healed. I mean, I know my truth. That's all I ever wanted, to know my truth. And like I said, once you know your truth, you're completely healed. You are. And Mother Ayahuasca, you heal yourself.
Yeah.
She just shows it to you.
Yep.
Well,
so
I read a question. So, I mean, most everyone purges, on it, but you didn't mention anything about that. Mine was such like intense, like physically on me. So I'm curious, like, how was that for you? Because a lot of people have never done, that's the first thing that they're afraid of too. It was like, oh my God, like, how sick am I going to get? And
let's rewind. This is awesome, right? So first, second, and third nights, I didn't throw up. Purging is throwing up, diarrhea, crying, laughing. I got a hell of a story with that. I wish we had more time, but mine all came from yawning. Now think, it was my brain, right? They did the surgeries to clear out my brain, so that just makes sense for me to yawn all the time. But on the fourth night, though, this ayahuasca was like motor oil compared to the first 3 nights because the shamans brought it up from Colombia. I had diarrhea at least 10 or 15 times. But in the Maloka, people are throwing up. You know what's cool? It doesn't smell because all the smoke they bring through and everything like that. And they have the doors open. So if anybody's out there, like, you don't smell anything. You hear them throwing up, but you're so involved in what's going on with you personally.
Your own thing,
Yeah.
No,
and one other quick funny story I will tell. So once I was completely healed and I had the infinite possibilities, and I started, for the rest of the night, I was shaking uncontrollably because I had all this energy in me. They call for the second cup. I go back up, and I stand in line. I got the shaman, and I was really tilting around. It was pretty bad, right? The shaman goes, "How you doing tonight?" And I looked at him, and this was right after Mother Ayahuasca, and I think I left out a part. She also told me, once I was healed, this is unbelievable. I can't believe I forgot to say this, but she told me that I was now a member of her team, and I'm meant to go out and awaken the masses.
Yes, I love that.
Now, I'm curious on. Oh no, go ahead.
Let me finish this because I forget.
Yeah.
So there's so many cool parts. So I'm waiting for my second cup, and this guy that I found my one guy I loved, and I kept going up to him. There's so many different people, and his name was Chris, and he's like, goes, "What's going on, Tony?" He goes, "How you feeling?" I said, "I'm reptilian." I told him I was now a snake, and he looked at me, and I was shaking. He turns around, comes back with like a half a cup. Wasn't a full cup.
That's
Wasn't a full cup. The next day at lunch, he walks past me. He goes, we're passing by. Looks over. He goes, "You still reptilian?" Oh, it was so funny. So it was an awesome experience. And then I even went back to my bed the rest of that night. It was like hissing like a snake sometimes. So it's some crazy stuff, right? But go ahead, Megan. Go ahead, Megan.
No, that kind of leads perfectly to my question. I was going to ask you about like your dosage. Like for me, my first night I did just classic ayahuasca. I went mild, like 3, because I wanted to get my feet wet because I was pretty scared, and didn't get much of it. But I got rest for like the first time in 30 years. But on night 2, I did same 3 of classic ayahuasca, but then I told the shaman my story, I need help. And so he added in +1 of 5 MEO-DMT. And let me tell you. Let me tell you. Did
That's
you
hardcore.
experience that? Oh, yeah. No.
I'm not as hardcore as you, Megan.
I was just wondering, like, if they mixed it with other things or how deep. I wanted to know how deep you went,
So I just did 2 every night. You could do a third. Actually, on the last night, you can do as many as you want. So the first 2 nights are similar. The third night's called Ladies' Night. They call it Ladies' Night. I'm like, why are they calling this Ladies' Night? I mean, what's going on? It's just very sexual, right? In a positive, like nurturing, loving way, because it's Mother Ayahuasca. It's a female energy night, and it's all female shamans, right? And people are getting up. They're like, for the first 2 nights, everything was fun. The second, people's shirts are off. They're dancing all over the place, and they were feeling the divine feminine energy, kind of what they call it. The 4th night, I can get into this, but I didn't talk about this. The shamans come from Colombia, and we started later, about 8 o'clock at night, maybe like 2 or 3 in the morning, even 4 in the morning. They bring the females up in groups, put them in a circle, and then the men. And the shamans come, and there's like 4 or 5 shamans in a row. The first shaman will come to you, do whatever he needs to do, and then they sit down. They keep rotating around the circle. They put all these oils over you. I don't know what it's called, but they would drink this. They would drink something, and then they would it would spray it all over you. Yeah. And then they were taking oils, and they were taking those big feather duster things. I don't know what they're called.
It feels freaky.
It was so tribal and so indigenous, and it felt so right. And they kept one person in the front and the back. It was one of the most amazing experiences, and I felt even more healed after that. And it was the real deal. And then the moon. Here's another cool thing we had. We had a fire that was supposed to be the grandfather, Mother Ayahuasca. This was like the grandfather spirit. And you could get up anytime you want. You go out to the fire. Whatever that you didn't serve you anymore, you threw it into the fire. So I got rid of overthinking, overanalyzing, laziness, whatever you wanted to do. You're like, this doesn't serve me anymore. I'm getting rid of you now. And you just say it, and then you leave. Right. So it was completely awesome. And the moon was right above you, and it looked so cool. But the last night, the moon went over to one side of the Maloka, and the sun came. So the moon's on one side and the sun's on the other.
Wow.
And it was gorgeous. I can't say enough great things. They didn't try to hard sell you at the end to get you to come back. Of course, they mentioned some things, right? But overall, it was just an unbelievable experience. If anybody you know, wants to go to an ultra safe place, at least from like a content and verbiage, right? You don't want to go into the jungle. You know, I would recommend, you know, going there.
Absolutely.
Going to Rythmia.
That's
But
awesome.
but I would, in the same token, I'd love to go, and I think you're probably gonna. Yes, I'm definitely gonna do it again. I wouldn't mind even trying like some San Pedro. Have you heard of San Pedro?
I would love to try San Pedro.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. If you
But
guys are
here's
gonna go
what we're
somewhere
gonna
in the U.S. and do San Pedro, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll stay
yeah.
for sure,
Who
man.
figures it out first.
We're also, you know,
We're
our goal is to create these healing retreat centers.
And we're going back for
I
ayahuasca
saw that.
in 2 months. We're doing ayahuasca again. So
Are you going back to Vermont?
well, we are going back. What we're doing though is we're going with the intention of just to healing the last 30%, you know, of my healing. You know,
Yeah.
I got so much in that one night, but it's peeling the onion, like, as you know, there's a lot. So going back to finish it and for clarity of purpose, like we already know we're called, you know, we've got a book that's in editing. We want to, you know, have, like he said, healing retreats, you know, a little bit of guidance would be nice.
Yep.
You know? Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And you know what? It has to, you know, if we're going to help out as many people as we can, it has to be commercialized to a certain extent. That doesn't mean you don't have to take out the, you know, the indigenous traditions. And I mean, the ayahuasca, then they really reiterated, it's so you have to bless it in a certain way. They do it.
Yep.
Yeah. And it was so beautiful. The Moloko is just gorgeous at Rythmia.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. You know what? Jerry absolutely loves YouTubers and influencers.
Oh,
I bet you. Here's what I'll even do. When I came back, I developed this marketing plan for him, because he told me to start to give your stuff away for free. I said, Jerry, you're the first one I'm going to give it away to free to. And he just said, thank you. He just said, thank you, whether he uses it or not, whatever. Right. But I could say, hey, I have these awesome influencers that I met. They would love to connect with you to see if they can come down and, you know, at least talk to them. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll email him and I could just like CC you on it, and then you could jump over top and say, Tony had awesome things to say. This is what we're doing with Maegical right now. See how this works already?
I'd love that. We'd love to have him on our podcast. That would be incredible.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank
you very much.
He's on. If you would, we have time for another story?
Yeah,
for Jerry?
Go for it, man. Go for it.
This is fantastic. So Jerry, there was a healer, a worker in the Moloko the first night. Her name was Zen. So we're sitting at breakfast the next day, and they all congregate and with us and hang out. And she's mentioned something about, she said, she goes, we're building a house over here. I'm like, what do you mean we? She goes, Jerry's my partner. You know, I'm Jerry's girlfriend. I'm like, yo, you're Jerry's girlfriend? Yeah. She goes, you didn't hear how we met? I'm like, no. She goes, well, 3 months before I came down here, and Jerry's done about 270 ceremonies of ayahuasca, right?
My God.
Yeah, 270 ceremonies. So the medicine told Jerry, it said, in 3 months, an Asian woman's going to come down here, and that's going to be your partner, right? So Jerry was on the lookout for this woman for the next 3 months. So Zen was a lawyer from like Vancouver or Seattle, somewhere like that. That was like, you know, been divorced, was raising a couple kids, couple teenagers, but you know, ayahuasca was the last thing she was ever thinking about. And then one day, one of her therapists recommended it. Next thing you know, she's on a flight down to Rythmia, and I guess Jerry kept looking through like he saw her and he's like, oh, this is the one. So he goes up to her and he goes, hey, I'm supposed to meet you, and she's like, what are you talking about? I'm just coming down here to. So Zen went and did the medicine, and the medicine told her, yep, you're supposed to be with Jerry.
Wow.
She's telling me this story. I'm like, what, am I in a cult? What's going on down there? Right? So next thing you know, she goes, wait a minute, you got to slow down. So it didn't really go that fast. There was some time. Eventually she came down for a couple dates, and then magically, her ex-husband called her up and said, you know what, you've been raising the kids for the last 10 years. How about you let me raise them for a few years? Like, it's meant to be, right? So she goes, okay, calls up Jerry, said, I'm on my way down. And now she's living down there with him.
That's amazing, man.
That is so incredible.
And dude, these are the stories it's miracle. It's all those stories, everybody else that was healed. And we can talk offline sometime, but that story after story, they don't end. That's how the stories are.
Yeah.
So I know it's real. When you go there, you see it not just for yourself. You see all these other people being healed. You listen to their stories. Life is freaking unbelievable. It just is. It's and you know, from the infinite possibilities now. And I've been listening to a lot of Michael Beckwith. I don't know if you listen to him or not.
Yeah.
But you know, there's something within each one of us that wants to express itself in the most positive, loving, caring, joyful, wealthy, abundance, all those good kind of things. And our negative childhood trauma and conditioning prevents it from coming out. Yes. Now that's gone. Yep. Oh, it's just ready to come out now, man.
100%.
But it's still taking time. It's not going to happen overnight. But now I feel like I can kind of move forward and I have a pass. So
that's awesome, man.
So beautiful, man.
That's what I got for you. That's what I got.
It's amazing. This was incredible. I enjoyed this so much.
Yeah, you're so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all this. Thanks for just throwing that vulnerability out there about going into detail, man. You are creating so much space for other people to open up and heal. Yes. Man, I'm so excited to keep in touch with you and see what you build. It's going to be amazing.
Awesome, man. And hey, I'm watching you guys do it every single day. I can feel your love and your spirits coming through your posts. And in the videos that you do, David, and just, you know, the warmth. And I know you guys are the real deal. And that's why I was so looking forward to our conversation today.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
You've got one more question, right?
There's one question we always end with. If you could leave the world with one message, what would it be?
Please, 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 let's find a way, right, to educate our children during young ages, adolescence, into the teen years, and educate them on conditioning.
Yes.
Because you shouldn't have to wait till 30 or 40 to try to figure it out on your own. And guess what? Only 5% of us are awake anyway. The other 95%, they don't even, you know, they don't even know.
They don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they're holding themselves back. Right? They don't know they're in their own cycle.
And like when you're so awake, like I feel like, oh, everyone's starting to awake now. Everyone gets it. And then I'm reminded, no, Maegan, not everyone is. Yeah.
So that's it. Fine, but I know that the government wants to keep us sleeping. They want us just smart enough to run the machines, but not too smart to figure out what the heck's going on.
That's right.
I don't want to get too conspiracy theory here, but
I know.
That's all right. You know what? The shift is happening. So.
Yeah.
I really think it is. You know which one? I'll leave you with this. This is the one I blow the top off of people when I tell them this about conditioning. I said, listen, I'm like, you're not even really you. I said, let's say you're 25 years old. You were raised the way you were. You're 25. Let's say when you were 2 days old, another couple from another country adopted you, and you looked like that couple from an ethnicity perspective. You were raised in another country. You had all these different conditions. When you're 21 years old, you're not going to be rooting for the USA in the Olympics, are you? You're not going to be doing it. You're not going to be. You're going to have a completely different worldview and belief system, and that's just the way it is. But they don't like that because I am who I am, right?
Right.
And that's a real deep. That's a deep one. But that just, you know. That means we're all one. Don't judge. We're all one. Don't judge. You don't know what anybody else is going through, right?
That's right.
Just because you're living this life here, right? You could be living that life. If you were switched to 2 days, you could be living this life instead. You know. So don't ever judge anybody, no matter where. You know, I don't know if it was Deepak Chopra who said we are all doing our best from our own level of consciousness.
That's right. That's right.
So anyway,
dude, thank you so much for coming on here, man. It has been absolutely awesome. And thanks. We super appreciate that email too, man. I would love to have him on our podcast. That would be so cool. I want to go there.
Yeah, let me write that and get that, because I always see. I saw an influencer down there, and I think his trip was for free. But if you go on YouTube and put in Rythmia Ayahuasca, you'll see all the influencers, the YouTubers, and I think they get free trips because they just say, hey, we're going to come back and I'm going to, put Rythmia on the channel, yada, yada. So, yeah.
Awesome,
I wouldn't
all day long for a
thank you for everything, Tony. I love you in our group. I love we're connected. Let's keep changing the world and waking people up.
Let's stay in touch.
All right, guys.
Have a good one. Happy healing, brother.
Have a good one. All right, man. Take it easy.
Bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.